The GBNews Tavern has been declared open. I'm joined by Garry Lavin, who's done many things in his life, including presenting shows on BBC Two and, indeed, The One Show. And, Garry, I want to say welcome to GBNews.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Great to be here. Fantastic.
Well, it's good to have you here. Now, ahead of the programme, you've done a little drawing.
Yeah, I thought I was being a bit naughty, really, but you be the judge.
You've got to find it first.
There you are. Go on.
Right, there we are.
You can keep.
Thanks, cheers. It says, there we are. Thanks, cheers. Have you crushed nuts? Well, I have to say, we've had previous complaints on Talking Pints about the lack of ice. We now have an ice machine. And I will admit, we haven't gone in for nut, but here we are. We now have nuts just for you. So there we are.
I don't even like nuts.
Oh, well, that's fine.
I couldn't miss the musical joke, you know.
I love him. Listen, I love it. It's a great picture. And, Garry, you're an artist, an engineer, an inventor, almost a bit of an architect, I think, in some ways.
Well, I've been building some experimental structures and buildings and things. I'm not an architect, but I am a designer.
Yeah.
So I like to solve problems. So, you know, and one of the things I like to look at is alternative ways of doing stuff, you know. So I made a lot of these little structures as earthquake-proof buildings, hurricane-proof buildings, and it all began through doing my own project with Stonehenge, showing how you could move the stones to Stonehenge using very simple, flexible materials. And I realised then that we can get more out of structures if they're flexible. And let's get away from that big concrete idea. You know, let's just if you're in a hurricane, it's great being able to withstand the wind. But if you can absorb that wind, make it go around you, if you can absorb that earthquake, think of Italy. You know, they're always troubled by earthquakes.
Yeah.
If you can absorb that and transfer all the forces all around the building, you're on a winner. You know, but also I thought, I also need somewhere to live. Maybe I can make this work for myself. But I'm running out of life, really.
Where does all this creative thinking come from? Does it come from childhood? Does it come from school? Where does it come from?
Well, a natural talent to communicate visually. I mean, when I was 18 months old or something, my mum and dad never bothered with crayons with me or paper or anything, but they gave me a piece of paper. And the first thing I got hold of it, and the first thing I drew was a car. The cars were a bit more square then, you know. I drew this little square car, and they looked at each other and said, well, I mean, where's he going? What's happening here? You know. But then we lived in a large, rambling slum, complete slum, hardly any running water, toilet 100 yards away, in a big wasteland. But it meant I was allowed to run free in this land, and I could build dens and dig huge holes to catch me dad and build all sorts of stuff and just invent things, you know.
So you had the freedom to do those things?
I had the freedom to do that. It wasn't suburbia, you know. And all the local kids used to join. I used to have a massive gang. Apparently, I didn't know, but I had Levin's gang because all these kids we built catapults and aircraft, all sorts of stuff. And then a natural progression was to actually, I joined the Vauxhall Craftsmen's Guild as a student then. It was a postal thing and started, as lads do, every lad likes cars and they like to design cars. So I started doing that. But I also like to make things. So it was natural that I'd end up going to college.
Yeah.
But I began in the cotton mill, the textile mill first, and then went to do various qualifications and teaching qualifications. Taught in Manchester for a while in high school, rough high school, and then taught in further education and in FE and HE. But I got ill. I got septicemia. I've got a disability in my legs, and it took me 6 months to walk again. I thought I was going to, they thought I was going to snuff it. But I survived, and so I thought this is nature's way of telling me to get on with my own stuff. So I retired early. And then I set up, one of the first people on the internet and in the UK, and I set up this big website advertising outdoor crafts and building walls and forging iron and all that sort of stuff. Nobody was interested in that, but they did want to come along in my Land Rover and tootle about the moors. And then I started getting orders for special Land Rover vehicles. So I said, yeah, we can build them. And
So I mean, you were in retirement beginning to make a living out of what you love doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I shouldn't have done really because I was in a lot of pain. But I couldn't. You can't stand still. I mean, look, you know, I carry my ideas book around wherever I go. Mind you, again, I'm running out of life. I'll never make half of these things. You're in here. And you just do, don't you? It's bread and butter. And I used to say to the students, you are what you try out. 90% of design is what you leave out. You don't know what's going to work unless you try all sorts of things out, you know. But then I was stuck for a bit, you know, as a result of that. The BBC found me.
And how did that happen?
Well, I built all these vehicles, and there was a driving programme, and they wanted a four-wheel drive expert. And because I'd been one of the first people on the internet, my name popped up. I used to pop up in the top 5 search engines, and they got me in and put me on this as a little cutaway story where I had my big roughy-tufty truck, brought it to Chelsea.
Were you scared of doing telly?
I'd been a teacher, communication.
Yeah.
I knew how to, and I've been a pub storyteller and all that, you know. So I knew that.
I believe you.
The timing and the punchlines, and there's a certain rhythm to it all. And I thought, but I was, but yeah, I'm nervous now, you know. I mean, there is a nervousness, but they found me, and apparently it was a success. So they tried me out for a series. And it's a social history series, but I made it a technology series, all about the inventions in your home. And it was great. I'm a complete unknown, and it got, what did it get, 12% of the audience, 2.7 million viewers.
Fantastic.
Is that fantastic?
No, I mean,
well, I think it's fantastic.
Well, it is, because actually, as a society, we've almost turned our backs on engineering and making things and doing things. Young kids... I mean, I know that you talk design and technology and things like this.
Yeah.
You know, young kids growing up are not encouraged to become engineers. They're encouraged to do social sciences and all sorts of things. So the fact that you do a BBC Two series, every home should have one, and big numbers of people watch it, shows actually maybe there's a gap out there somewhere.
Well, I would have thought so, but...
maybe we're not catering for this properly.
Well, that's 19 years ago now, and they said to me, oh, we've got enough middle-aged presenters, thanks, and that was that, you know, and somebody else got the work, and it's been, and it was difficult. So we went, it was hard finding any kind of work, you know, and I still got it. The teacher's pension it's not very good, so I had to find some sort of work. So we went to teach... My missus went to teach hairdressing in the Isle of Man, and she taught in Rochdale originally, and that, we can imagine the inner city problems there. And she got fed up with it, you know. And our lad was 11, and we wanted to take him and bring him up, dyslexic, quiet. We knew he would just be subsumed in a school in the north of England. Took him to the Isle of Man. It was fantastic, and he got the childhood that I got. He got that roaming around the countryside,
which kids don't have anymore.
I mean, we rented this little house on a farm, but I told him how to fix lawnmowers, ride on lawnmowers. Got him into mechanics in that simple kind of way. And then him and his mate used to find old ride-on lawnmowers and race them across the fields, you know. And then they started buying and selling chickens. And then they started at 13. And then started breeding chickens and selling them, and now he's 24 now, and he's.
So how do we turn this around? Because, you know, you and I both know there's a massive increase in childhood obesity in this country, which is partly diet, but it's also partly not being out roaming around, spending huge numbers of hours on mobile phones. A lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, getting social sciences degrees at universities.
I don't know how you solve it. I mean, society changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, but we still need engineers, and we have to import a lot of them from overseas. We're not producing enough of our own people.
Well, in the last few decades, I mean, I spent a lot of time with engineers, garage mechanics, farmers, and the same conversation all the time is, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're letting all this industry go. It's madness.
Yeah.
And in the end, we've all been right, you know. And when I made a war memorial for Manchester Airport for the glider pilot regiment.
Wow.
And, fantastic.
What a group of men they were.
Blimey, fantastic. And there was no government money to make this memorial because they trained at Manchester Airport. So they raised a few £100, and so I went to British Aerospace and I made this thing in British Aerospace. And it was such a joy to work in that massive factory in Chatterton in Manchester. Super set up, people doing proper things without pressure, everything being right. And I thought, 1,000 people work there, and I thought, how many places in Britain employ 1,000 people doing productive stuff like that?
Very few now.
And all those old lathes and all that stuff. I know a lot of stuff needed replacing. But it's going to cost a lot of money to bring it all back. Yeah.
No, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult. Now, what really interests me is, and by the way, you also got to present the One Show, didn't you, as well?
Yeah, only once. I mean, I went to
But you still did.
Yeah, I still did. I suppose at the end of the day, even if I starve to death, I can, as I die, as they're nailing the lid on, I can say, I did it. But I went to see them because I was doing the Stonehenge project.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. Yeah.
And I said, can you help me with this? You know, and they said, well, we'll do a feature on it. But you're too good, really, to just do that. So they phoned me up when there was a Soyuz spacecraft brought to the Isle of Man. And there was... turned out to be a bit of a racket. They were going to... This Russian cosmonaut and an American businessman were going to run space tourism from the Isle of Man. And I was sent to interview them, you know, which was very interesting, getting in the Soyuz capsule. But everybody could see it just wasn't going to happen, you know. And I think they might have taken the Isle of Man government for a ride. And that was great, but I was a little bit out of practice. It had been 7 years since I'd been on the box. So, but then a bit later we did the whole feature about the Stonehenge.
So tell me, explain to us, how the hell did they get those stones there? How did it all... I mean, we all know Stonehenge. Millions and millions of us have driven past or visited it. It's still one of the great...
Great, isn't it?
I mean, is it still a mystery or not, or have you sussed it out?
Well, I'm not infallible. I'm not an archaeologist. This is a problem I have all the time. But what I am, I'm from a building family, working class family, where people use their bodies as tools and levers and all that. And I always thought as a kid, you'd see all the lecturers and students pulling on ropes, hauling the stones along. And I thought, they can't do it. The bodies aren't developed. I'm not saying this in any kind of macho way. No. They don't know how to use the body in levering and a flow and, doing it the right way. And for instance, pulling the rope with your hand. Yeah. The first thing it hurts is your skin. That's just not like a horse doesn't do that. A horse pushes forward on the harness, you know. So, I thought, this can't be right. And I remember my dad showing me when he was building a path to the outside toilet. We had these big stone slabs. First thing he made me do as a kid, I had to move these stone slabs and drop them into slots in the ground, you know. And he showed me all the various ways. And I thought the problem is you need to do these experiments with people who know how to work and how to can relate to the stone. So my idea was to roll it. So, they always show films of rolling on rollers. Well, the theory is that the smaller stones came from South Wales. That's 200 miles away. Yeah. Blimey, that's going to be a struggle on rollers over all sorts of ground. And I did think maybe they came down the River Wye. And so, but I made the whole thing a roller. We made these giant baskets and put the stone inside. And then I chopped down, I thinned out a forest and chopped down all these saplings and rammed them inside to act like springs. And the theory was that if we just push it like that, like a big tyre, and we'd roll it along. And rather than get academics, I know they probably don't like it, we got a local rugby league team, 13 blokes, and me. And we pushed it along at first, because I had no time to iron anything out. And it went across the field. Then we brought it back, this 5-ton weight, So
you sussed it. All those pictures we grew up with as kids with all the ropes being pulled probably weren't.
Well, who knows? Let's hope.
Garry, all I can say is keep on with free thinking. Keep on going out and solving some of these mysteries. And thank you very much for joining me here
thanks
on
for having me.
GBNews. Thank you.